From both parties in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives spoke out today regarding the latest with the balance of power in the lower chamber for next session.
Next session, and it is the 2023-2024 legislative session, which is set to kick off on January 3rd without a Speaker of the House and without a clear majority party. So tonight, Erie News Now State Capitol correspondent Brendan Scanlon is joining us live from Harrisburg. Brendan, with the latest details on where we go from here.
That's right, Mike and Eva. Good evening. Well, yesterday, in his final few hours as Speaker of the House, Republican Brian Cutler ordered a special election for February 7th to fill the vacancy of State Representative Tony DeLuca. Now, DeLuca passed away in October, and his name still remained on the ballot because ballots had already begun printing for the November 8th election. Now, per the state's election law, candidates cannot be replaced on the ballot once counties begin printing them. DeLuca was ultimately reelected in the Allegheny County race, which ended up giving Democrats the edge over Republicans by one seat in the House. Now, at this point, the debate is if Austin Davis is sworn in as the next lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania. As for now, it's really just one day at a time. But one thing is for certain, it's going to be a very interesting kickoff to the next legislative session on January 3rd here in Harrisburg. Reporting live at the state capitol for Erie News Now, I'm Brendan Scanlon. Mike and Eva, back to you.
Isn't that the case? A very interesting start come January. Brendan, thanks for that report. Well, the end of the year is approaching, which means a new Congress will be in session soon. But until then, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are racing to finish a long legislative list before the end of the year.
And our D.C. correspondent Rachel Knapp joins us now live from the Capitol. Rachel, what items are lawmakers looking into?
Good evening, Mike and Eva. It varies from economic issues to funding policy, and Democrats are trying to make the most of this while they still have the power and majority in both these chambers. Now, one of the top priorities Congress is focusing on is making sure they can prevent a rail strike. Now, about an hour ago, the Senate passed on an 80-15 vote to implement an agreement struck by President Biden and the rail unions. Now, a second measure was proposed, which would have included paid sick days, but the Senate couldn't get enough support to pass that measure. And while the Democrats are still in control in both chambers, they're trying to pass some legislation that would provide federal protections for same-sex and interracial marriage. Now, there was just enough Republican support in the Senate to move that legislation through. The House is slated to vote on that as early as next week. And one of the most pressing items is funding the government.